Welcome back to the MSU Federal Credit Union Coaches Show.
Welcome back. Michigan State's game against Central Michigan was the first football game on campus since the tragic shooting in February, and it hit very close to home for UConn transfer running back Nate Carter. Our Ian Kress shares his story and how his platform was able to transform one of the victims' lives.
Appreciate you sitting down with us, Nate Carter. For you, you've been here a little less than a year now here at Michigan State. How have things been going for you?
Things have been great. You know, for the last 8 months, I can say it's been the best 8 months I've ever been part of in my entire life. You know, coming here was just a huge blessing to me. Being a part of this Michigan State football team, being here on the campus, seeing all these people around, having family and friends, and meeting a lot of new people. I mean, it's just been great, and I've really enjoyed my time here.
What went into the decision to transfer from UConn, and why did you decide on Michigan State?
Yeah, I would classify it as a leap of faith. You know, I feel like when I was at UConn and when I was injured, you know, I got hurt and I had to sit out for the rest of the season. I felt like God was then calling me to go somewhere else, and it was hard because, you know, I've been at UConn for over 3 years, and I had met a lot of family there, a lot of friends, built some really great relationships there. So for me to kind of remove myself from that, it was a leap of faith. I had to really trust in God to be like, hey, I'm going to trust in you and kind of get out of my comfort zone so I can do what you called me to do. And even throughout the process, God really just opened my eyes up to a lot of doors and opportunities. And I was just praying, hey, all right, Lord, what do you have for me? You know, what schools do you have for me to go to? Where do you see me making a big impact?
Just listening to you talk and seeing things that you post on social media, you are very open about your faith and your trust in God. Where did that sort of start for you?
Well, I always grew up in the church. You know, my mother and my father were believers. My father's a pastor back in my hometown, Rochester, New York. So I've always grew up around a Christian household.
I saw there's one quote that I think resonates to a lot of people right now. It says, our spiritual growth is like going to the gym. It's hard to get in shape if you only work out once a week. Likewise, it's hard to grow spiritually if you only work out on Sundays.
I had to find my relationship with God for myself. I couldn't depend on, just because my father was a pastor, I couldn't depend on his faith. I had to find my own relationship with God. And I found that, you know, when I did do that, that I had so much more joy, so much more hope about life. You know, this life is very short, you know, and I think a lot of times we take that for granted. And, you know, it's just me being in a relationship with Christ. That's something that's changed my life personally. And I wanted to change everyone else as well.
3 MSU students lost their lives last night in the deadly shootings. 5 others are in the hospital in critical condition.
The shooting on Michigan State's campus took place less than 2 months after Carter arrived in East Lansing.
No one ever wakes up expecting to go to class and that happens, you know, and it was definitely a tough time for our campus.
There's John Howe, a recovering victim.
One of those injured in the shooting was international student John Howe, who was left paralyzed from the chest down. Howe's roommate at MSU was international student Arjun Chen, who just so happens to go way back with Carter.
We were high school buddies all the way back in high school when he lived with me as an exchange student. So like I said, when God works all things together for the good, like it says in the verse, you know, it's crazy how I transferred from UConn to come to here, you know, and me and Arjun kind of connected back, and then 2 months later that happened, and it so happened that it had to be his roommate.
After the tragedy, Arjun decided to start a GoFundMe for his roommate. Only problem, he didn't know how to connect it with John's family in China and didn't know how to spread the word. So he sent it to Carter, who posted it on his social media, and a few hours later, the GoFundMe was up to over $300,000.
It was definitely an emotional moment for me, knowing that, you know, my brother, who I lived with back in high school, his roommate was going through such pain. So I just wanted to be there for him. I wanted to be there and to comfort him and to mourn with him and to cry with him. I didn't get to meet John, but I was able to meet his father, you know, and I was able to bring him to a church, and we were able to pray for him as a congregation, and not just for his family, but also for all the families and really all the students that were affected by the shooting, the tragedy. So it was a blessing that I was there for Arjun and there for John's family at the time that I was. So I'm very grateful for that.
As you can see, he is certainly an easy player to root for. All right, we're going to keep the transfer theme rolling, and when we come back, we're going to sit down with a player who is new to East Lansing, but not new to Mel Tucker. We'll see you soon.
This segment is sponsored by Shoe Pad.